groomed is my 2 Persian cats. I'm not a groomer. I'm just a loser.
Oh, quit it. Okay, I was just complimenting your CG.
And I'm not a predator, even though a lot of you think so. Because 5 years ago, I made a...
You heard this sick new track?
We could not, there was no way of beating the charge, no way.
I still have the right to beat a confession out of you before your lawyer gets here.
The police are coming to take us to jail? I think we're going broke.
I think sampling is a bit like, to compare it with another art form, is a bit like photo collage.
Oh, you don't think I forgot about you, did you? Right off the bat, we get Blade just straight up defiling this vampire hideout. And as he does this, there are 2 brainlets who, while escaping, just decide to stand there and wait to be shot.
Excuse me! We don't know these guys!
The vampires then continue to try and get away, but let's be honest, it's a folly at this point. And the first 2, they get down fine, but the last guy, he forgot to bring gloves, and he fucking eats ass on the way down. Another notable part of this scene is how it's the first time we see the CGI they use, and it would, by common standards, definitely be bad CGI. But something about its video game likeness makes me really like the momentum and weight that the certain CGI gives it. Blade then proceeds to crack this guy's fucking bike helmet like a nut on the wheel of his own bike, which, although obviously not incredibly subtle and it might not even be this deep, I like the metaphor of the literal barrier of protection being ripped apart by Blade. This interrogation then leads Blade to the bigger vampire hideout where there's a bunch of blood cocaine, which I thought was like a nice, nifty, and kind of corny, but also awesome detail to add. And fun fact, you can buy these online, a display case of not only just the blood cocaine, but also the thing he's sniffing it off, for $1,245. No fucking way. Fuck yeah, dude, Whistler's alive!
You have bewitched me, body and soul, and I love, and love, and love you. I never wish to be parted from you from this day on.
Now, I'm glad Whistler came back, because without him, this film wouldn't have been nearly as good. And I don't even mind the explanation for how he came back. It's like failed suicide attempt, and then he turned into a vampire and thus healed after. Although then Blade's gun would have had to have had non-silver ammunition in it, which is weird considering it was the special vampire gun. Or it went straight through, and then he healed, I guess. He wasn't vampire enough for it to kill him when it went straight through, but he was vampire enough to heal after. Although I do think there are 2 better ways they could have made him be found. And one is he's found kind of malnourished and forcefully resisting the thirst of being a vampire. Or he has given in and he has to be rehabilitated, and kind of brings into question a lot of Blade's values when it comes to dealing with vampires and stuff. I'll get into that later. But I do think those 2 different routes would have provided more material and bouncing pads to kind of jump off in order to kind of address that concept of thirst a bit better and more thoroughly. On top of this, I also found this deleted scene where they were going to do a flashback of young Blade when Whistler found it, where Blade is about to attack this man and give in to the thirst, but obviously Whistler stops that. However, I think this deleted scene would have worked better in the film, as it would have just added to this conflict within Blade's character of how he did one day give in to the thirst, which would only give him more reason as to why he should perhaps be more sympathetic towards vampires and those that, although not completely evil, have given in to the thirst. Especially when you couple it with the aspects I'm going to talk about later that only add to this. And I won't reveal too much, as I still plan to do a review on Blade Trinity, but in the 3rd film there is a part where this guy kind of touches on the ideological aspects and symbolic aspects of vampires and how their creation, what they represent, is the hedonism of man, and so the thirst is kind of giving into that, which encourages, again, a kind of sympathetic viewpoint, because then it gets into the morality of like, oh, can you really hate people? Are they not just weak to have given into that stuff? Obviously, we're definitely getting a bit too deep here, but in the last film, they do particularly and purposefully touch on that. Then, as Blade returns to the hideout, we're introduced to Scud, who I'm sure you can recognize as Norman Reedus, aka Daryl, and that is exactly what I'm going to call him. And he is a very valuable addition to this film, playing the kind of slacker right-hand man guy, the guy in the chair. Just want to say there is no quicker way to ruin both a donut and a cigarette by having them together. That is fucking disgusting. And many times throughout, he kind of provides a like more realistic reaction to vampires and the situations that the gang find themselves in, which not only adds a small element of comedy, but also some relief from just total badassery.
Open the mouth, Scud. Open the mouth.
Hey man, I've seen him walk, but run? Nah, I'm out. Then shortly afterwards, they are attacked by these two ninja guys who turn out to be revealed to be Assad and Nyla. The odd thing about this scene is Nyla's depicted to be a great fighter who's able to go toe-to-toe with Blade, but yet for the rest of the film kind of just acts as a damsel in distress for Blade to save. Assad as well in this part and throughout the entire film is kind of the only one of the vampire gang who is reasonable and an alright guy, which makes me wish that he was more involved and him and Blade kind of had a friendship blossom a bit, or at least some level of understanding reached to kind of emphasize the growing sympathy for vampires created in this film. Instead, they kind of go down a romance route with Nysa, which would be fine, but for starters, unfortunately, the actor who plays her isn't very good in this film. I don't know about in general, but in this film, not very good, I don't think.
You have been our most feared enemy. But now there's something else loose on the streets.
And also this built relationship being a romance kind of cheapens the sympathy gained, because you just assume that it's mostly due to the fact that it's a romantic connection and not an understanding reached off moral change. And that instead of being included in order to change that view for vampires, it's instead included so that they can have a romantic plot in this film, as many directors or producers would want to insert that. Hi, editing Xander here again. Whilst I was doing some digging around, I managed to find this deleted post-coitus scene between Blade and Nyla. And clearly the director himself, Guillermo del Toro, was not very keen on this romance either, as this scene, which basically just displays a bit more of a romantic connection between them than in the actual film, and reveals a bunch of stuff prematurely, which I think would have ruined the entire flow of the film and some of the reveals. But not only that, it's also incredibly weird to see Blade talk this much and with this tone. Anyway, I'll just let the director himself tell you what he thought of this scene.
This is the only remaining thing of that 20-minute structure that I removed from the movie.
But look,
now listen to this dialogue and tell me if you don't want to remove it.
Maybe I do. Your security sucks, kid.
Where have you been, Whistler?
This is possibly one of the worst scenes ever shot in mankind's history.
Then Blade is taken back by the vampires, taken back to the vampire lair where he meets, I'm just going to call him the Emperor because he looks like Palpatine, and in a deleted scene he even had the white hair.
You did us a favor. Carol King.
You're human.
Barely. I'm a lawyer.
Huh?
European health.
I get it. Because you're a piece of shit.
Vampire.
Lawyer jokes are always topical. This is where they ask Blade to team up with them because there's a new threat bigger than him on the streets called the Reapers, who are basically just vampires but immune to silver and garlic. Sunlight still gets them.
Looking to get hooked up?
Alright bro, I know this is the dodgy part of town, but maybe keep it down a bit.
Maybe. What do you have?
No problem. Horse, Hawaiian ice, whatever you need.
Whatever I need. I like that. What if I need you?
So sweet.
I'm telling you right fucking now, that drug dealer's blood is definitely not sweet. Fuck you looking at? And after Palpatine's done recruiting Blade, he then gets introduced to the Blood Pack. I know, very creative naming there. Who are the new team that he will now be working with in order to destroy the Reaper scum.
Lighthammer. Verlaine. Priest. Snowman. Chupa.
Come on, alright guys, you had the perfect opportunity. If anyone should be called Chupa, it's the redhead.
And Reinhardt.
Hey, me and the gang were wondering.
What was that?
Can you blush?
See, when deciding what I was going to do with this bit, I managed to dodge a bullet, because I initially thought this "Can you blush" scene was Ryan like doing a kind of Superman style "Do you bleed" thing. But no, it turns out it's racist. I searched it up, and Ryan is meant to be depicted as kind of white supremacist-y, racist piece of shit. And that's why when they introduce him, they play like military style drums, to kind of link him thematically with that notion of old traditional kind of bad nationalistic kind of views. And thank God I searched it up, because otherwise I was going to do a zoom and a blush on Blade's face, which may have been a bit distasteful in hindsight. But I still love you, Ron. You provided me with like half my childhood by playing Hellboy. David Harbour could never do it like you.
Adolf here gets the first shot. Come on, what are you looking at her for? You need permission? Or maybe you need a little bit of incentive. Okay, I can help you with that.
Now you got an explosive device stuck to the back of your hand.
Silver nitrate. Rigged to go off if anybody tampers with it.
But anyway, Blade and the newly assembled Vampire Avengers go on their first hunt for Reapers, obviously at a club, because every Blade needs a club scene. I wonder if anyone would ever make a film without a club scene in Blade. But before we get into the mostly descriptive stuff, there was this sick song made for the film, Eye Against Eye by Mos Def and Massive Attack, and thank God it was in this film, because when I listened to the whole thing, just in case there was anything interesting to remark about, I forgot that I had it on, and it just started playing old school hip-hop beats, which turns out are like the best work music and has been hyping me to actually continue doing this video whilst taking my time editing it, since oddly enough hearing people whine about how sad they are isn't the most motivational music. What the hell am I doing here? Anyway, right off the bat we got Whistler acting a bit suspicious. He leaves his post at one bit and is also a bit insubordinate in the group dynamic. There's also this really neat shot where Whistler looks down his infrared scope and sees that Blade's heat signature is more like that of a normal human's, whilst the vampire's is obviously a vampiric heat signature, whatever that is, which is nice just because it adds a bit to the scientific lore of vampires and daywalkers, but also it's kind of a visual representation of this current moral conflict of how different they really are, and it adds more to that kind of train of thought. And you really get reminded that this is fiction and not real life when you see this motherfucker absolutely tearing it up on the dance floor.
The toxic gossip train.
However, undeniably the best part of this segment is its ability to humanize the side characters present within the Blood Pack as having varied identities of their own right, rather than just having no functionality to the plot at all. And although none of them have much agency within said plot, their function in varying our perception of vampires beyond their antagonistic relationship with Blade is integral to fleshing out the moral quandary present within Blade's desire to just kill all vampires. A goal which, without this humanization, would seem justified in that all we've seen of vampires is them be wholly evil. And it does this not by just showing us the vampires doing nice things and therefore making us sympathetic to them. It does this by showing us many varied different factors of each of their identities, with the first one actually being negative, with this guy walking in and just being basically racist to non-vampire purebloods.
Look at them. Half of these bastards are not even purebloods. I tell you what, why don't we just fucking kill everyone? Just to make sure.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
But then in contrast to that, we have a pre-existing romance between Redhead and Lighthammer.
And obviously we get the classic Lighthammer gets bitten but hides it, which invests us slightly at least in the outcome of their romance and how that's going to factor into what we know is coming. If only we had someone who was experienced with people hiding their bites.
Towards the end, the best scene for this is when Chupa has to kill Priest because Priest has been infected by a Reaper and is about to turn.
When trying to humanize the vampires, I think this scene works perfectly, because not only do you see Chupa as remorseful and sad, but in comparison to Blade, who throughout the whole film, but particularly in this scene, because of the contrast given, seems uncaring and a bit cold, makes you a bit more focused on the unfolding stories of the vampires, especially now that you know that there's something else to come in the plot between Redhead and Lighthammer. Anyway, to wrap up this scene and fill you guys in on some necessary information, Whistler is caught leaving his post during a vital time, only making him more sus. Among Us joke in 2023, that's still funny, right guys? Right guys? Blade also questions Nisa as to why Nomak didn't kill her while having her hostage, implying that Nisa and Nomak have some sort of previous connection or reason of knowing each other. And whilst tracking the Reapers down to where they run away, they find the Reaper hideout in the sewers, and they take a dead Reaper back to study, finding out that the reason they're immune to silver is because they have kind of like a bone casing around their heart that stops it from being penetrated, and this can only be surpassed by stabbing them in the side, kind of like up that way, which is near impossible and very difficult to pull off. There's another great detail in this surgery scene when we're shown how the Reaper's bodies are hardwired to still try and consume blood even after death, which again adds to this thirst aspect by painting these Reapers as an epitome of the thirst, an epitome that is savage and horrifying even to vampires. And this biological display of it shows that it's hardwired within vampires, promoting a view of them as an afflicted people rather than an evil one.
What the fuck is that?
Brain's dead. Body's still trying to feed.
This is also shortly followed by a scene where Nisa, despite the bad acting, does confront Blade a tiny bit about his hatred to vampires and says that like, oh, the thirst comes for all of us, I've just accepted who I am. Which would have hit a bit better with a better actor, and also, like I said previously, without the romantic aspect involved.
It's in my blood.
Well, it's in mine too. I'm a pureblood. I was born a vampire. You know the thirst better than any of us. Shooting that serum of yours. The only difference between us is that I made peace with what I am a long time ago.
I mean, come on, man. I could act that shit better, and I have two vocal settings, sedated or a hyper child. But continuing on, the gang now rearm and plan to re-enter the sewers to now kill all of the Reapers using newly harvested pheromones to attract them. And this is when Reinhardt delivers the best line of the entire trilogy of Blade films.
What is this shit?
Pheromones, harvested from the Reaper's adrenal glands. They're gonna key to it.
They want us to spray on some suck puppies' nut juice.
Okay, so now we're going to use the bee pheromones in order to attract more and hopefully make our hive a bit bigger. Yep, you in the middle, Baldy? Hi, yeah, that is female bee pheromones, right? Like, I'll still be straight after this, right? That ain't no nut juice or anything, is it? Why do people keep fucking asking me this? Hey, it's a fair question. Then, after this, they enter the sewers to begin their final hunt with the aim of exterminating all the Reapers this time. And literally, all of the Blood Pack members die, apart from Reinhardt. With Chupa, Snowman, and Assad getting quite unceremonious deaths, with Snowman's not even being on screen.
Get up! Right now.
They jumping me! They jumping me!
But surprisingly, Lighthammer and Verlaine have quite sad and impactful deaths despite being inconsequential side characters, again just adding to our sympathy for them. With Verlaine outperforming all of Nisa's acting during her entire screen time with just like 3 facial expressions. And then, either out of fear-induced stupidity or a desire to kind of mercy kill her now feral lover, she, while escaping, opens a manhole, letting the light in and killing them both. This is also where we get our only good romantic scene, and it's not even good for the romance present within it. This is where Blade feeds an injured Nisa his blood after destroying all the Reapers. This scene, whilst not good for its romance, is great for again showing us Blade dipping his toes into the moral ambiguity of the thirst and blood feeding. And whilst he does this, Nomak kind of looks on, not attacking, just looking perplexed, which again kind of blurs this line between Blade and the vampires. But obviously, it's always about the blood with these guys, and they tase both Blade and Whistler, taking them back to their hideout as the Emperor betrays them. Oh my god, it was all a dream! And here, everything is revealed. So basically, the Emperor actually genetically engineered the Reapers as he's trying to upgrade vampires to eventually be able to have no weaknesses and be able to walk in the sun, which is why he wants Blade to put together that last piece of the puzzle to make the ultimate vampire. And Nomak is actually the Emperor's son who he experimented on first. And on top of this...
Reinhardt, you can kiss your ass goodbye.
I'm sorry, man. Big.
No, you son of a bitch, Daryl. He was the sus one all along. No. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you, Whistler.
See this? I'm one of Damasceno's familiars.
Two things. One, I've been on to you since they turned you. And two, it's not a dud.
Oh, great.
There's really nothing with too much weight attached to it until the very end, so I'm just going to kind of breeze us through this bit. Blade gets taken for his blood to be harvested. Whistler manages to beat up Reinhardt, which is kind of weird and unrealistic given that Reinhardt is still a vampire, but whatever. Whistler then finds Blade, kills the lawyer who's harvesting his blood, frees Blade. Is the lawyer dead? I don't know. The jury's still out. He then walks Blade to the pool of blood so we can drink some of it and get his strength back. We then get our sweet Reinhardt versus Blade showdown where Blade is just one punch cracking familiar skulls to get to him.
Well, like my daddy said right before he killed my mom, want anything done right, you gotta do it yourself. He also said...
And after that line, I swear there is a small hint of sympathy in Blade's eyes. But Ryan's still a dick, so...
Hey, kid!
No fucking way they're gonna do it again, come on. Yeah, baby! And as we reach the final fight, the Emperor and Nyssa are both running from Nomak as he comes for vengeance against his treacherous father. And just as the Emperor is about to escape, Nyssa seals the emergency doors. Not only sealing the exits, but both their fates. Nomak soon arrives and disposes of his father, who in his final moments attempts to beg for his life and say that it was all just a mistake and we can fix this and we'll find a cure. And after this, Nomak feeds on Nyssa, dooming her to the ultimate vampiric thirst that is being a Reaper. And although I think this is great, I believe this could have been much better if the Emperor was the one who mortally wounds Nyssa, with Nomak killing him shortly after, but forgiving Nyssa as she was unaware of what was happening to him. And then after that, Blade instead chooses to kill Nomak, as his thirst is too dangerous and untamable to leave him alive, which would not only give a reason for Blade to be so set back in his genocidal ways in the third film, but would also end his character arc back where he started, giving us this complex but reasonable flaw within Blade's character. But regardless, here we are. Final showdown. Kinda good versus kinda evil. Daywalker versus Reaper. The true test to see if they are befitting of that name. Here we get to see some more awesome video game CG, which I still stand by as lending a certain excitement to the scenes. And whilst Blade is getting his shit rocked towards the end of the fight, he manages to slip his blade through the side of Nomak's heart cage, but not all the way, with Nomak finishing the job himself. In this triumphant but somber ending to his character. And I really do like this ending. Not only does it cement this thirst as a curse for those who may otherwise have been good people, but for a superhero film, this really is a unique ending, leaving us with a bittersweet taste in our mouth and something more to take away than a cheap victory. And it does this by leaving us with the death of someone who, in the end, was more so a victim than a villain. Oh, and Nisa dies, but meh. Okay, here's a little outro talk bit. I really do hope you enjoyed. This one took fucking forever to make, and there's still going to be some issues with it when I go and render right now. But my next big video where I'm going to put more effort than this one in is Blade Trinity, so I'm going to do that very slowly. It might take a while, but in the process of doing that, I will make some shorter, maybe 10 to 15 minute videos that I will put a bit less effort into, but at least make good and release those whilst I'm working on Blade Trinity, because I really don't want to rush it. So please do leave any film suggestions below, also any criticism of anything you did like, anything you didn't like. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you around, and stay for the end card for some little bloopers.
Oh! Dude, getting a prawn cocktail crisp bit in your fucking eye kills. I was just sitting here, eating it while editing, and oh fuck. Oh, I'm gonna have a red eye for some of the other recordings. Oh! Oh! Bastard! Oh! That is... Oh, the salt! I can taste it in my eye. Oh, this is going to be a good bit to, like, put somewhere in the video, though. I'm glad I was sat on my PC. I was, like, head down, rushing, like, record! Record it! Oh, motherfucker. Oh, it's my good eye. Jesus Christ. See the pain I go through for you guys?
This is where Blade feeds Nisa his blood after he's killed all of... And this is where Blade... And this is where Blade feeds an injured Nisa after... Yeah. And this is where Blade feeds an injured Nisa after... Why does your brain just stop then? Oh, dude. And this is where Blade feeds an injured Nisa his blood after destroying all the Reapers. You started on the... And this is where Blade feeds a Nisa his... Feeds a Nisa. And to be honest, my usual mopey kind of music isn't great to create a great... Today, Junior. My plan was to do kind of like a funny Zune.
The conception of the piece is the important thing, not the means used. Yeah. And this is where these distinctions break down.
All right, now listen. You're going to need legal help.
Right.
A lot of help.
Who's got the music? Somebody's got it, and somebody's been scoring bits out of it. Do you know of this?
I didn't have a fucking thing